Welcome to your third German grammar lesson. This is the third video in a series that teaches you German from the beginning. You don't have to know any German before watching this series, but you do have to watch the videos in the right order because I'm building up your vocabulary and grammar strategically. The videos are like actual classes, so there's not only an explanation, but also practice and homework. In the last two videos, we learned how to use verbs in the present tense, how to make negative sentences like I don't know or I never swim, how to ask questions, and how to express the present progressive and the future by just using the present tense only. If you don't know how to do some of these things, please watch the other videos first. They're full lessons that will prepare you for this one. I'll put a link to the playlist in the description box below and on the info card in the top right corner of this video. Now, if you're still here, sit down, focus, treat this as a real lesson, and get yourself a pen and paper so you can take notes. Today, we'll learn why German nouns are totally weird, of course, how to actually use the definite and indefinite article, and some more seemingly random but actually important stuff about using nouns. There's a lot to unpack. Let's get started. The first thing we need to look at is the definite article the. In English, you just got that one word, but in German, we have three words for the: der, die, and das. They represent different grammatical genders. Der is masculine, die is feminine, and das is neuter. Kind of like in English where you have three different personal pronouns, he, she, and it. We just do the same with the articles. A lot of languages do this. For example, in French, you have le and la. So you have masculine and feminine, but you don't have the neuter one. So I'm going to assign colors to them according to their gender, like this. Don't worry, I don't think there's something inherently feminine about pink at all, but it makes it easier to recognize the grammatical gender, which you do have to learn in order to speak correctly. Actually, you already kind of knew that the translates to different words because we already learned die Musik, the music, das Haus, the house, and das Wasser, the water. For we only have two words, ein and eine. Because der and das are both ein. So if I wanted to say a house, what do you think what that would be in German? Ein Haus. Good. All nouns start with a capital letter, as you might have already noticed. No exceptions to this rule. This can help you spot a noun in a German sentence. So how do you know what gender a noun has? First of all, for some nouns, it's simply natural which gender they should take. For example, der Mann, the man, is obviously male. Die Frau, the woman, is obviously female, so she gets die. Das Kind, the child, could be any gender, so it's neuter. Der Junge, the boy, is also male. But then there are some inconsistencies. For example, die Person, the person. A person could be any gender, but still the grammatical gender of this noun is female. So even if you're talking about a guy, you would use die Person if you use the word person to refer to him. And then there is one famous example that confuses a lot of people, even though it can be explained quite simply. Das Mädchen, the girl. Why the heck is a girl not female but neuter? It's because any word ending in chen is a diminutive. Okay, the ch is pronounced chen. This diminutive is a concept that kind of exists in English. Think of saying doggy instead of dog. It makes the dog seem smaller and cuter, right? That's what a diminutive does to German nouns. If you add chen to a noun, you make it appear smaller. Now, Mädchen, historically, comes from the word die Magd, which means maid. To make her smaller, that is, a child, they added chen. A lot of people don't think about the historic roots of that word anymore, and many don't even know that this is where it comes from. Also, don't be confused by the fact that the a turned into an e. This is what happens in most cases when you form a diminutive. They usually add an umlaut to the base word when they can. Umlaut just means that you put those two little dots on the vowel, which changes the pronunciation. O becomes Ö, A becomes Ä, and U becomes Ü. I'll show you two examples. Das Brot, which means bread. That becomes das Brötchen, which would be a bread roll because they're like bread, but little. Okay, so the O in Brot became an Ö. Das Brot, das Brötchen. A little bread. Let's do another example. Das Haus, the house, as you already know, becomes das Häuschen, which would be a small house or a cottage. Sometimes we take things a little too far and we say stuff like Hallöchen instead of Hallo, which means hello. So by doing that, the hello sounds a little cuter and nicer, and it sounds like you're in a really good mood and not threatening at all. I sometimes do that when a friend calls me and I pick up the phone, I'll go, Hallöchen. It just sounds wholesome and happy. Now you know two rules, which are that sometimes the biological gender fits the grammatical gender, but most of the time it doesn't, and that all diminutives are neutral. But what about all the other ones? Is a table feminine, masculine, or neuter? Well, for Germans, a table is masculine, der Tisch. But die Tür, the door, is feminine for us, and das Fenster, the window, is neuter. That's why we always learn the article together with the noun. Just consider the article as part of the noun and not as an extra word. There are some rules that you can adhere to if you don't know the gender of a noun, the grammatical gender of a noun. But there's so many of them that you would go crazy trying to learn them all. And on top of that, most rules have tons of exceptions, so it doesn't make much sense. Nevertheless, I'm going to give you just a few of them, the ones that I find most reliable and palatable. First of all days of the week, months, and seasons are masculine. For example, der April, April, der Sommer, summer, der Montag, Monday. So I chose these because they're almost the same in German and English, but I'm probably going to make a whole video just dedicated to the days, months, and seasons. So how to talk about your favorite season, how to tell time, and how to ask what day it is, things like that. Professions are also generally masculine, and to make them feminine, you have to add an ending, which I'm going to show you later. So, der Polizist, that would be the male police officer. Der Fotograf, a male photographer. Der Lehrer, a male teacher. Der Student, a male college student. So I have to say a couple of things about this word. Student, it's pronounced st at the beginning. So st usually, like almost always, makes st. Also, in English, if you say student, that could mean a college student or a high school student, or any type of student. But in German, the word Student is just a person who goes to university, okay? It's a college student. It's nothing else. So for like high school students and stuff like that, we have different words. I can also make separate videos on professions if you want. Not only the words, of course, but also how to use them in sentences, how to ask someone what they do for a living and how to answer that. If that's something you want, let me know in the comments and I'll make it happen. Words ending in ismus are masculine too. Ismus is the equivalent of the English suffix ism, so I'm sure you'll understand these words immediately. Der Journalismus, right, journalism. Der Kommunismus, communism. Der Feminismus, feminism. Der Rassismus, racism. Now, das. As you already know, words ending in chen are diminutives, so they are neuter. I didn't tell you before that the diminutive can also have the ending lein. So we already have the example das Mädchen, the girl, das Märchen, fairy tale, and das Kindlein, a little child, a cute small little child. We don't say this word as often, and generally we use chen much more than lein. So you could also say das Kindchen. Infinitives used as nouns are neuter as well. So for example, you already know that lesen means to read. So das Lesen is the noun of reading. If, for example, you see, I don't know, in a library, a sign that says, whatever, reading is not allowed. Well, that's stupid in a library. But let's say reading is allowed, okay? There's a sign in the library that says reading is allowed. That would mean das Lesen. Okay, so it gets a das. This is hard to explain. I'm sorry, guys. Das Arbeiten would be working. Das Essen would be eating or the meal, okay? Words ending in ma. Usually those come from Latin. Das Klima, climate. Das Thema, the topic. But there's an important exception. Die Firma, the company. Okay, companies are feminine in Germany. Then also nouns ending in o. Most of those are also from Latin roots. So, das Kino, the cinema or the movie theater. Das Büro, the office. But, important exception, der Euro, the euro, okay, the currency. Die. Words ending in heit and kite are feminine. They get die. For example, die Gesundheit, health. That's interesting too because gesund means healthy. By adding heit or kite, you just make it a noun. Die Sauberkeit, cleanliness. So sauber means clean. Nouns ending in They're also feminine. For example, die Zeitung, the newspaper. Die Bewegung, the movement. And Bewegung means movement both in the sense of actually moving your body as well as symbolically like the Me Too movement, for example. Nouns ending in Schaft. Die Freundschaft. I don't know if I told you before, but SCH is pronounced sh. So to summarize this, SP is pronounced sp, like we had in the, I think it was the second video actually. ST is pronounced st, and SCH is pronounced sh. So that means friendship, Freundschaft. Freund means friend, Freundschaft, friendship. Die Nachbarschaft, neighborhood. Nachbar means neighbor, Nachbarschaft means neighborhood. And then we have the professions. Basically, what you have to add at the end of the word is in. So maybe you remembered the male professions that we had before. It was der Polizist. That was a police officer who's male. So die Polizistin would be the policewoman, a female police officer. Die Fotografin, a female photographer. Die Lehrerin, a female teacher. Die Studentin, a female college student. Nouns ending in E. The IE is pronounced like a long E, okay? Die Ironie, irony. Die Industrie, the industry. You see how in English you would stress the first syllable? The irony, the industry. In German, however, you just stress the last syllable. Die Ironie, die Industrie. Nouns ending in ik, like die Musik, you already know that one, that's music. Die Panik, panic. Die Grammatik, grammar. Die Klinik, clinic. Now let's do compound nouns. You may have noticed that German speakers love to form long words. In grammar terms, a word that is made up of more than one noun is called a compound noun. Basically, you can just form any word by adding two nouns together to make a new one. Let's say you want to say the music industry. You can already say that with the words we just learned in all the examples. Die Musik, okay. Then die Industrie. And now you just put them together. One word, die Musikindustrie. Now, what article should this new noun take? The rule is that the last noun, the second noun, always defines the gender, okay? So in this case, it's die anyway, because both nouns are die. But look at the next one. Let's say you want to say the front door, okay? We actually don't say front door in German, we say Haustor. So, das Haus plus die Tür equals die Haustür. Die Haustür is feminine because Tür is feminine. So the last noun is the one that counts. Let's do one that isn't feminine. Let's do climate activism. So climate is das Klima, and activism, der Aktivismus. Remember, Ismus is always male. That equals der Klimaaktivismus. But there's a lot more to know about compound nouns. Oftentimes we have to change some part of the first noun, but that would be too complicated right now, so we'll do that in one of the next videos. For right now, just learn that you can make new nouns and that their gender is defined by the last noun in there. Now, before we do the exercises, here's all the vocabulary of this lesson for you to copy and reference. We did learn some more nouns than these, but I didn't deem them as important. For example, I don't know, what was it? Panic? But if you want to study everything from this video, you're certainly welcome to go back a little and jot down words like music industry as well. For now, study those, because we'll be using them for examples in the next lessons, because we will stay on the topic of nouns for a little while. We'll also need them in the upcoming exercise and homework, so pause this video now to copy the words into your notebook. Okay, great. Now time to practice the vocabulary. I hope you paused the video because you'll need some of those words now, and you'll also need the vocabulary from the last two videos. If you don't have that handy, I've put a link to my second video where I listed all the vocabulary so far right at the end, so go there to reference that. Now, I'll give you about 5 seconds maybe for each sentence. If you need more time, pause the video in between each sentence. If you don't have time to do the exercise right now, that's fine, you can skip it, but please come back to it another time, because it really forces you to practice your vocabulary and deepen your understanding of everything I've taught you so far. Okay, let's go. Der Junge hört Musik. The boy is listening to music. Ich bin Fotografin. I'm a photographer, a female one. See how we don't add an article if we state our profession? We basically just say, I am police officer. She is teacher. He is student. Okay? Sounds weird in English, but that's how we say it. Was willst du? Ein Brötchen? What do you want? A bread roll? Wir müssen Zeitung lesen. We have to read the newspaper. You might have noticed that there is no article in there either. Wir müssen Zeitung lesen. Basically, in German, that's how you say it. You have to read newspaper. It means reading the newspaper in general, not one newspaper. You could say, wir müssen die Zeitung lesen, but then usually we're referring to a specific newspaper. So, wir müssen Zeitung lesen means that it's generally a good idea to be informed that, you should know what's going on in the world and read the news. Die Firma hat ein Büro. The company has an office. Ich liebe die Bewegung Fridays for Future. Sorry about the quotation marks being at the bottom there. It's because my computer is set up in German, and it simply doesn't want the quotation marks to be on top no matter what I do, which is because in German, at the start of a quote, you put the quotation marks at the bottom, and at the end, you put them at the top. That's just the German rule. So now you know why it's like that in my videos. If you know how to fix it, you can tell me. And I'll let you translate that. I love the Fridays for Future movement. Okay, now I'm going to give you English sentences and you have to translate them into German, which is more difficult. She loves music. Sie liebt Musik. She's a student. Sie ist Studentin. Good. The man is selling water. Der Mann verkauft gerade Wasser. You can omit the gerade and just say, der Mann verkauft Wasser. But then, without any context, you don't know if that's a regular thing he's doing on Tuesdays or if he's doing that right now. And in the English one, you can see that he's doing it right now. So to translate it correctly, I would recommend adding gerade. I'm buying a newspaper. Ich kaufe gerade eine Zeitung. How much is the bread? Was kostet das Brot? The person needs bread and water. Die Person braucht Brot und Wasser. Okay, I hope this helped you remember and refresh some of that vocabulary from the previous lessons. Now it's time for homework. If you do this homework, you can just put it into the comments and I'll see if you got it. You should be able to do all of this with the 3 videos in the series you've watched so far. Just to make it a little easier for you, I put all the vocab you need for this homework in that table on the right. But if you want to challenge yourself, try to do it without any help. Study the vocabulary first and then do your homework. That's it for now. Pause the video now to do your homework because the end screen is coming up right now with a link to the playlist of this whole series and a direct link to the next lesson if it's already uploaded by the time you're watching this. Also, please like this video if you found it helpful and subscribe if you want to learn German thoroughly and fast. Bye! Cheers!